And here we are for another scene for Perth. This is going to be starting off with Leon and James meeting up somewhere. Good question. Where would we actually be meeting up? Should have covered this before we spent live, but whatever.
Well, I don't know. I'm sure there is multiple places we can have a little chin wag. How about on a park bench?
That works. Park bench in a park that is part of nobody's domain.
We're having a look at the nighttime view.
Like, oh, something slipped my mind, but recently came back to me. I believe the Brujah Primogen Pro Tempore actually wants to meet with you.
Oh, really? Who is the Primogen Pro Tempore nowadays?
That's Marcus Creel. As far as I know, he's the only Brujah in town.
Well, ipso facto, he is the Primogen, I suppose. What do you make of the man?
Somewhat mercenary, but definitely looking to better himself.
Do you have any idea why he would want to speak to little old me?
Well, there's the fact that the domain that he was granted and the domain that you already hold sort of interpenetrate a bit, at the very least.
Well, poor planning and management from our prince.
Well, it's just more that, weren't you given all of the hospitals?
Well, not all the hospitals, no, but as the area in which I hold is a small little nugget. Should we as a clan be insulted by this?
Possibly. When it comes down to it, at this point, I'm not even going to bother trying to figure out the prince's logic. Even for Tremere, it seems arcane.
What else is happening in the city? I have been quite reclusive recently. I assumed that my business would be able to assume unattended, but I hear so little of what's going on in the city, it worries me.
Well, I haven't been paying as close attention myself because I've been dealing with my own interests, but I don't know, lately I've been deciding I should start paying a bit more attention. Among other things, I've heard a bit of grumbling as far as rewards for service have gone. And he still hasn't spoke. In case you missed the little bit of fun times that I got involved with, not only did we find a whole group of dead werewolves in King's Park, as far as I can tell, killed by their equivalent of the Sabbat.
I beg your pardon?
Yeah. There was apparently a werewolf sacred place that was very well hidden to the point that it doesn't show up on any maps in King's Park, and it was destroyed. There were a lot of ghosts there.
And you think the Sabbat did this?
No. The lupine equivalent of the Sabbat.
Ah, my God, they have a Sabbat?
Yeah, that was my... Well, okay. To be honest, my immediate reaction was a bit more apoplectic because I happened to feel... I found whatever was their focal point or holy, a sacred tree, as it were, and I felt its past and spent some time pulling myself back under control.
My word, what secrets did you wrestle from such an ancient place?
I'm still parsing that. And then, at the same time, another ghost came in that was apparently working for a Harbinger of Skulls.
What the who now?
They're a bloodline that started showing up about 10 years ago. Most of them have joined the Sabbat, but not all. Several of them are independent. I believe this one when he says he doesn't intend to join the Sabbat.
Okay.
In fact, he intends to follow, any of the prince's rules. He simply wishes that no Giovanni be allowed into the city. But he was over at haunted place. Was at the Old York Hospital. Apparently, he may have been some of the source of the haunting stories.
Ooh, that gives me the willies.
But yes, as far as I can tell, they also have a measure of skill with necromancy, as the Giovanni do. But between this guy and the Giovanni, I'd rather deal with this guy. The Giovanni are like the attempt to be the Ventru and are less competent at it.
Well, if we have learned anything from this city, is you do not want incompetent Ventru.
Yes. We have a new Ventru. He actually also joined my coterie. After the first Primogen meeting, we had a sudden vacancy in our coterie for some reason.
And do you believe this man will be a good asset towards your coterie?
I believe so.
What is about business?
He's fairly skilled when it comes to business matters. Let's see here. Who else is coming? Who else has come in? We've got a new Toreador. I believe you've met Asher. Got a couple other. There's another new Ventru in town, and the Nosferatu seem to be growing in their visible members.
Mm.
A bit of a change in who was in power there. It's now Hannibal is their Primogen. Oh yes, and a Toreador got, well, partially eaten by a were-shark.
I'm sorry, Leon, I drifted off a little there. Did you just say were-shark?
Yes.
Surely that shouldn't be a problem. They can, unless we go swimming.
Well, from the looks of it, he was investigating an area of the sea that was that fish avoided.
An area of the sea or the city? Did you say
The sea, the ocean around the city of Perth.
Right. Otherwise, I would have to point out the obvious flaw in your statement there, Leon.
There's plenty of parts of the city that fish avoid.
Maybe they know something we don't.
But yeah, he I don't know, couldn't quite. I tried my best to get a read off of the off of what was left by the creature, but it apparently entered his apartment and left it without, going through a door or a window or even a wall. Impressive.
A lot of people say that we are mad, Leon, but I think it's not us that are mad. I think this world is mad.
It tends towards that, yes.
Well,
but
I'm not sure how am I supposed to have processed this information, Leon, apart from barricade myself into my haven.
Well, the world is it's no more dangerous now than it was before you heard this information. You're just more aware of the dangers now. Oh, yeah. And
the optimal way of putting it.
Apparently, the prince has yet to actually meet with the Harbinger of Skulls, as his ghoul called me recently.
I see. I suspect that we'll probably need a liaison or a warden to deal with this individual.
Well, at the current point in time, the prince has forbidden any contact with him, so I have no idea what he's planning.
Well, those Tremere like their secrets.
Yes.
Now, I did hear from the grapevine that you have been doing very well for yourself.
Yes. I've been recognized as an ancilla, which is always nice.
What did you have to do to relay this particular note of status?
Well, the whole finding the Harbinger of Skulls bit probably helped.
I see. Now, our clan seems very underrepresented in the city. You seem to have much more of an active idea of the pulse of this city, as for some reason or another it seems the kindred are loath to speak to me.
Well, save for the Brujah Primogen who wants to speak to you.
Well, we'll see exactly what he wants before we start jumping to any conclusions. But I wanted to simply ask you, do you think our clan will be better represented with someone a little bit more active, such as yourself, within this seat? I did say when I first said I'll be keeping it warm for you.
At this point, possibly. At the very least, we should consult Asher and get his opinions on it, but... Well, okay, it's been long enough. He should be out of his shell shock by now. Apparently, something disturbed him when he was talking with Rafat. To the point where Rafat called me in to help deal with the situation.
I'll see. Well, if you believe you can do a better job of it, then we will speak with Asher. But I would ask for only one thing in exchange.
What's that?
That you may still take the time to visit me on occasion, and that I may give my advice towards you.
Oh, of course. I am, I think, one of the few people in the town who is not irrationally afraid of you, so...
I do not know why. Maybe they do not like Grandma's cakes. That is a bit of a faux pas if people don't like chocolate and all I have is chocolate cake.
Well, it's, when it comes down to it, I've tried eating food on occasion since I was embraced, and it never really worked out.
Well, just because people ingest a cake cannot appreciate the form, the smell, the texture. It says that smell, for instance, is the heightening of memory. It is one of the most effective stimuli to bring us back into our more human days. I sometimes just hang around Grandma's and ask her to make plate after plate of bacon and eggs because it reminds me of better times.
Well, if you get a very rare steak, sometimes you can almost taste it.
I will have to try that. Well, I suppose we should call this Brujah and see what he has to say.
Oh, yes, I believe I've got his number. And, assuming that Leon does have Creel's number, he'll call him up.
Creel.
Hey, this is Leon Harris. I believe you wanted to meet with James Pierce.
Yeah.
Well, we're currently out at Insert Park Name here. You want to come?
It will take me a few minutes, but I can take the time. Sure.
All right.
It will take the aforementioned Brujah Primogen Pro-Tem a few moments, but he'll, if nobody has something really important to do before he comes in.
Well, in the interim, James Pierce will take Leon to a small, 24-hour garage, and he'll pick up a loaf of bread, and then head back to the same park.
Yep.
And he'll start scattering around breadcrumbs liberally, until only half a bag is left.
That's a good cue if there was one. Creel comes walking in with his usual jogging outfit. Leon's seen the outfit. He probably can guess there's some protections underneath it, because it's baggy enough to hide most things. And his ever-present gym bag. Walks over to Leon.
Yes. So, Marcus Creel, James Pierce, Marcus Creel.
Pleasure to make your acquaintance, sir.
Why, it is a pleasure, Mr. Creel. Brujah tempore, eh? Well, do excuse the locale. I know it's not particularly fancy, but myself and my hand here do enjoy feeding the ducks. There are no ducks around.
Krill actually passes that by like he didn't even notice. Well, I actually like porks myself. For that reason, I much like the area I currently reside in.
I know it is a wonderful little area, is it not? I am also quite familiar with such a place.
Well, part and parcel of the reason I wish to discuss with you, sir. Business first, I assume?
Well, it is up to you. This is my first time of making your acquaintance, sir. I am most intrigued over your sort of personality. What do you enjoy doing? Do you have any hobbies, sir?
Yeah, I usually would prefer to spend my time in a nice, comfortable little park and teach the humans and anyone interested a few moves about Tai Chi. Alas, Perth has not been too generous about free time as far as myself is concerned.
That is the problem. I find moving furniture a real hassle.
I find it more of a hassle when people assume that I'll be very, very happy to help them move furniture and other things just because they told me to. But on to the matter at hand. Yeah, we seem to have a slightly... Well, we're very close neighbors, shall we put it that way? And I imagine it would be neighborly of me to come out and meet, and also to state that I have no need, let alone interest, to be unneighborly towards you.
Well, that is very good to know, Creel. I would hate for our mutual location to be anything other than a bludgeoning of our two great clans. If you need anything, you would just have to me. I can be on hand with a lawnmower or a cup of sugar anytime you wish.
Well, that does bring up a certain point. If you find that you have ill-mannered guests at some point, and they refuse to depart peacefully, please don't hesitate to ask for my assistance. I believe that would be in both mutual benefit that they are escorted far away from both of our domains.
That is a most kindly offer, but I have had a precious few need for that sort of thing. It seems a lot of people don't want to make trouble around me, and then I get so few visitors, Mr. Creel, it is quite lonely. I don't suppose yourself would be partial to maybe a cup of tea or a slice of cherry pie?
I do apologize. I've not had a taste for food such as it is for, well, since my embrace.
I was just explaining to my hand here how everyone still leaps to the conclusion that you cannot appreciate food because we cannot ingest it. But the smell, the form, the texture of it beneath your feet, that is something that only we can truly appreciate, seeing as we are absent from its nutritional value. It heightens memory and harkens us back to a time which we should all fondly remember, which is our brief immortal days. For our humanity is all that we have, is it not?
There are a few other things, but
None of those things really matter, Mr. Creel. Which of those things truly matter?
well, one's head usually matters. Beyond that, not necessarily too many other things. No, not at all. I'll be happy to accept your hospitality at some point down the line. If you'd be willing to accept the small request as to what I might be interested in partaking, as the word is.
What do you want to partake in, Mr. Creel?
Since you reminded of memories, good, properly brewed green tea might be a very interesting thing. It's been quite a few years.
Wow, that would be absolutely splendid. I never had a taste of it myself in my mortal days. Iced tea was more of our thing upon our porch. But I'm sure I can find something suitable. So tell me, Mr. Creel, how is it being a Primogen pro tempore? How are your clan? Are you up to any mischievous little dealings?
Alas, not up to any mischievous little dealings. However, our clan has seen probably better days, even with the reported casualties of the war. We've had quite a lot of casualties during the peace as well. Previous Primogen left the clan with some unfortunate matters to deal up and clear out. And that's been done. Now it's just two Brujah trying to figure out which one they can shove the Primogen title towards first. Alas, I seem to be the one carrying it at the moment, and the other guy is bigger than me, so...
It does seem that the responsibilities of leadership are often thrust upon those who are unready for it.
Seems like it, and probably the best explanation for some of the leaders I've seen.
What's worse is when it's thrust upon those who are not prepared for it but believe they are.
Very sound judgment, Leon. Very sound judgment.
Now, I might be curious if you've seen any examples of such in this city.
Well, one, but
aside from
he was your predecessor, and it was very brief.
He wanted the job so very much.
No,
And most of the clan that was present at the election wanted the job so very little.
Yes. And he had all the impetuousness of youth.
Well, there's something to be said about being impetuous occasionally.
Yes, but there's also something to be said about recognizing a bad deal.
Yes, there is. Unfortunately, some of those deals are just unavoidable if one wants to function within the Camarilla's esteemed circles.
Oh, yes, some of those deals are unavoidable, but when you go out and seek out bad deals, that's another thing.
No need to remind me, the Brujah Permian seat still holds, what was it, 3 major boons towards the Archon, payable at his request, with no rights of refusal or anything of that sort attached.
Yes. Well,
Well, Mr. Creel, I'm sure you can call upon Clan Malkavian to be stalwart friends in such matters. We are always willing to help our neighbors in any triumph or aversion you may have. Not that I'm saying that you and yours are not capable of dealing, but friends working hand in hand surely make light of any work.
I'm happy to hear that, which does bring up the point. I heard that the prince is actually tasking the harpies, of all things, to come out and find out about our monetary businesses.
what?
That's what I heard. What business we do in this city.
And you expect truthful answers?
Oh, I shall absolutely respond with the utmost truth of it. I am currently busy following the prince's statements from the first and thus far the only Primogen Council meeting, where the clan Brujah was instructed to establish influence over the construction areas. Alas, this project will take some time.
Of course, of course.
You haven't got the parts just yet.
No, it's more along the lines of I shall answer truthfully and with very little fact.
Yes.
Oh, I think it'll be remiss of us not to follow the prince's orders to the letter. I will speak truthfully about any business acquisitions within excruciating detail. I look forward to the Harper's visitation, Mr. Creel.
You are planning to make certain that there are numbers of everything.
I am making sure that I am truthful and honest in dealing with the prince.
I imagine most of the Primogens, let alone the clan members of various clans, will be taking one of the approaches. Though I do think that's the Mr. Pierce is the first one to suggest the let us give him everything he asked for.
See, I happen to have saved tax receipts dating back to, well, 20 years. I'm certain he'll find them interesting reading.
Why, you have to be organized with these sort of things.
Well, and now that I've got a better understanding of the whole thing, thanks to me essentially watching over one of my disciples' shoulders while they did it for me.
I think I'll have to confess to being totally outclassed by you two, both good men in finances. I've barely held an honest work with a transcript of my pay in my life, let alone an undeath.
Well, let's see. Well, the army kept meticulous records, but I'm fairly certain they believe I'm dead by this point. So I couldn't bring out those tax records, and those are prior to my embrace anyway, so I don't think they're exactly pertinent.
I always hesitate to throw anything away. You never know how useful it will be afterwards.
Yes, but sometimes you don't have the choice on what you get to throw away or don't.
There's always a choice. Otherwise, you're being careless.
Sometimes someone else makes the choice for you. And you have no real means to tell them not to.
Well, that's just myself thinking out loud. But occasionally, even a bad deal needs to be pointed out.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of bad deals, Mr. Creel, do you have any inkling why the prince so haphazardly put our domains right slap bang on top of each other?
I requested a certain area by name. It is a very interesting area, and for some strange reason, the Brujah Primogency volunteered to pay a boon for the privilege.
Hmm.
However, that was established fact that I would not challenge any existing domain, which there was one. I am not a medical expert by any measure, though I have some interest in some interpretations of medicine. I have neither the understanding of the various occult mysteries of bookkeeping, let alone anything else to make much use of a hospital anyway, whether that there is someone from Camarilla doing so, than that there be no one.
Oh well, I'll just think of your domain as a nice cozy jumper.
Well, I think one of the other Primogen mentioned how handy it is to have something that important held by the Brujah. I think they imagine that we'll be the first ones to stop an assault or something.
I wonder if the Primogen Council is making you watch me or I watch you, Mr. Creel.
Well, I would imagine it's more a case the Primogen Council didn't get asked. I've seemed to pick up a sense of the prince making such decisions on himself. And it's more a case of the prince probably deciding it's best to put us two very, very close to each other and hope something happens.
Oh, I have a quiet inkling that something will happen, Mr. Creel. Something marvelous. Cooperation. A much more scary word when it comes to vampire politics than confrontation, I'm sure you'll agree.
Well, if the prince had any other word in mind, I'll be very, very happy to disappoint him. I have, as stated, unless invited, I will be offhand as it pertains to your domain, and will be very happy to accept your hospitality. I'll give that green tea one more try.
Excellent. And I will let you know if anything goes a little bit out of bounds in my end.
I'll be happy to help with such things. It's, like I stated, mutually beneficial for us to make certain that domains are upheld.
Yes. In general, it's a good idea to ensure that.
And since it's close to myself, it's in my own best interest to help out anyone who's neighbors with me. Oh, might I have to talk with the new temporary Tremere we heard about as well?
It is my understanding that
I'm hoping I won't.
yes, it's my understanding that at the moment he's relatively private. Also, as I understand the areas of domain, you're honestly closer to. Oh no, that's right. You do border something.
Yes. Unfortunately, he happens to have a long border with me on the eastern front of all things.
Actually, a relatively short one, but yes.
It's a long border, everything else counted, and it's kind of concerning idea to go through a Tremere Elder's domain, even if just traveling.
Yes, well, so long as you're just traveling, you should be fine.
Well, you can always argue the point once the stakes get removed, but you know, getting staked is never fun.
Very rarely.
Very rarely. That's gonna. I hope there is some grand story behind that one.
There might be, but you'll have to remain in consideration of it.
Fine. I'll get you in one weak moment and squeeze it out of you. Better yet, I'll mention to Rafat that there's such a story.
Well, if you wish to mention it to Rafat, feel free.
Oh, you're setting me up for a fail, aren't you?
Let's just say I know enough about Rafat that if I do tell him the story, he's unlikely to tell it to anyone else.
Best friends to have, the ones who will keep your confidence.
Exactly.
No faults there. What else? Oh, I did mean to ask of the Malkavian as a clan opinion, as it pertains to our good prince, in, unfortunately, all seriousness of the meaning.
I'm sorry, what is it you're asking?
What do you make of our good prince? That's about as forthright I'm willing to be with that question.
James looks to Leon.
Well, strangely enough, though, not being the primogen myself, I believe I actually have had more interaction with him. And he is quintessentially French.
I am trying to find a way to turn that into a polite compliment. I'm currently failing very hard.
To place this in context, my earliest memories are of growing up in Cornwall.
Very good.
Around the very latter part of the 19th century.
Am I going to have to go for the history books? I do admit to being less than fully educated gentleman. Probably lacking on the gentleman part.
Well, if he is who he claims to be, he's one of many people who was a victim of the Reign of Terror, which would place him among the French aristocracy of the time.
That, unfortunately, puts things in less than favorable perspective.
That said, I think first and foremost I think there are two things to keep in mind with him. First and foremost, he expects a great deal of respect from others. Second, I do not think he is very used to dealing from a position of power with those outside of his clan.
Well, if he keeps this one up, at least he'll be returning to more familiar surroundings.
Well, that is very possible.
Well, surprise, surprise, the Brujah has something to complain about the current prince.
No, the surprise is that it's not a Ventru that the people are complaining about.
Well, that is a big surprise, but then again, Ventru might have been wise enough to avoid insulting a whole clan at the
Depends on the
introductions
Ventru.
of one of the neonates of said clan.
Again, depends upon the Ventru. There have been... I have run into some Ventru that actually understand the tools of state. And then I've run into some Ventru who think the only tool of state is the bludgeon.
Well, that seems a very interesting way to go about it.
Well, it's one of the few lessons my sire gave me that I think is actually worthwhile, at least to give to pass to others, is so many, and especially this is unfortunately especially true among certain Ventru and Tremere, view the use of the discipline of dominate as a bludgeon. It is not a bludgeon; it is a scalpel. It is something for fine use and fine control.
I'll counter that with something one of my many teachers once mentioned to me. Any tool can be used either with precision or power. It takes real skill to combine the two.
That is true, but so many forego precision for the appearance of power.
And since
when
we're
it comes down to it, yes, you can indeed bludgeon someone to death, but or you can, to give another example, lay down a hail of bullets, or you can have a single person take a single shot and have more effect.
Fair enough point.
And whereas when it comes down to it, the Ventru do have a power that can and should be used as a bludgeon. It's one they share with the Brujah.
They share. Oh, yes, they do.
And that's one that is in fact very well used as a bludgeon.
Well, it can be used as a bludgeon, but the same consideration actually applies.
Yes, but when your effect is to make everyone love you, so long as you do not horribly abuse that, people are less inclined to be offended than when you, force them to do things that they might have been willing to do otherwise.
There is a point to that one, but this one actually comes from my sire. It's one thing to use the presence, as you suggested to be used, to have people agree, for instance, with myself on things, but that would be using it as a bludgeon, as you rightly described. It's another thing to use it as a scalpel, whether it is to save a life or something comparable to that. It is no less devastating than any other Brujah discipline and should be handled with similar care.
Well, at least it sounds... I will state on some level I do envy you your teachers.
Yeah. Well, you'll probably not envy what happens when I called him a blowhard once.
Well...
Blow and hard.
No, I'm just thinking of a couple times I mouthed off to my sire. And to be fair, I'm fairly certain I was I had perfectly good reasons to do so. I don't think he cared.
Mine actually gave me a pat afterwards, just stated that I should understand that occasionally saying things, even if right, will come with retaliation from those who you have just shown to be wrong.
A useful lesson.
Yes, didn't stop me from believing I was in the right at that time. Unfortunately, fortitude is not among the clan gifts.
Well, oh yes, that's right, and the new gangrel in town, who...
Is probably going to be the first person people from now on will be going if they need something moved. I heartily approve.
I'm not certain he can do that.
Oh?
Yeah. Oh, I had a in-depth discussion with him. I'm fairly certain, however, he can take a hit.
That is a handy capability, but then again, most kindred can shake off some levels of a hit.
That is true. But,
I think we're boring Mr. Pierce. Quoting people degrees smarter than us.
I'm sorry, what?
yes, we were boring, Mr. Pierce.
I think you might have seen it up.
I apologize for the long-windedness. It seems to happen every time Mr. Harris and I have a time to compare notes.
I hate to think what might be accomplished when you two reach the end of your conversation. But then the journey is always as good as the actual destination, I find.
Well, I believe that Mr. Creel and myself have learned the art of saying a thing without actually saying it.
I'm still trying to learn the art of hearing a thing without hearing it.
Well, that's a more esoteric art, and the esoteric arts are, I believe, on your learning schedule.
Unfortunately, yes, they are. Then again, unfortunately, only as it pertains to the fact that I have to make some room for them, and alas, it seems the politics will be keeping me busy for a large portion for the foreseeable future.
Yes.
Luckily, I'm no oracle, so it might be a very short time indeed.
I will refrain from pronouncing any oracles.
Very good. Thank you for your time, unless there is anything I can help you with.
I don't believe so at the moment. Leon?
I am quite good, and I should be receiving some of the books in soon.
All right, I'll have the monetary rewards ready. At least for a portion of the books. I hope you didn't bring in the whole library once.
No. Not all of them can be... some of them are harder to find, but a lot of them are relatively easy to obtain.
That's good. I did pick some items that I thought would be easy.
Yes.
Thank you for your time, gentlemen. Do let me know if I can be of any assistance in the future. Oh, and Mr. Peters, I don't believe you've met the other Brujah, so he goes by name of Istvan. Usually works with the sheriff at the forge. So
I see. What line of work is this gentleman in?
He's very, very good weaponsmith, actually.
I see. If he ever requires counsel, then you send him my way. Or if you need to be assured of his continued loyalty towards your reign, then once again, I will be more than grateful to put him upon my couch, and we will really hammer down the problems of this young man.
No, no, I'll prefer him to hammer his own problems down if he has any. And if I'm on the list, he's welcome to try. Hell, he might be even be right about some parts of it. That means I'll have to take the advice. That's how it works with the Brujah. You either recognize you've done a mistake, admit it and fix it, or somebody else will recognize and fix it for you. Maybe breaking parts of you along the way. Later, good gentlemen.
Good evening to you.
He'll pick his back, which those with very, very perceptive senses might hear a few metallic clinks. Yes, you Malkavians, I'm looking at you. And heads off, just walking briskly.
Well,
Well, he is quite the chatterbox.
oh yes. But having dealt with a number of Brujah over the years, he's among the types of Brujah I personally enjoy dealing with.
I believe our clan will do very well cultivating that relationship. Having the Brujah as allies is never a bad thing.
And possibly also the gangrel.
Wow. Such troublesome little children we have in our playpen. They all play nicely.
Oh, the gangrel usually play nice when they're not actually Shamasei masquerading as gangrel.
I beg your pardon?
Oh, you missed that too. So apparently, or at least this is what the rumor is, there was supposedly a gangrel Autarchus that might actually have been a Shamasei.
I see. Did not someone pick this up via Auspex?
I'm not entirely certain, but
Are you saying that their gifts can go through Auspex?
as I understand it, it was more implied by certain alterations to gold dogs.
So he could be amongst us now.
Oh no, he's staked.
Oh, was he the only one?
I certainly hope so. Because honestly, if it comes to a point where I find, oh hey, we have a bunch of Shamasei in town, then the only reasonable thing to do would be to call my sire, because for all his faults, he's very, very good at dealing with Shamasei. And I don't think any of us want my sire to be here.
When it comes to the Shamasei or your sire, I know which one I would pick, Leon.
Well, the worst my sire would do to me is simply kill me.
Well, I suspect he has a lot of pent-up issues that need to be resolved. Therapy.
This resulted upon the entire Shamasei clan.
There seems a lot of hatred and anger within him. I'm sure we can get to the root of the problem.
I would not advise it. I think, James, this is a patient you would not survive. Among other things, I'm fairly certain he has at least a millennium of age. Perhaps not all of it awake. But there have been times when he speaks of the Holy Roman Empire as if it was still a thing.
You say so, Leon. You say so.
He is not a safe individual.
And I suspect with that, James will wish Leon a good night and then start to barricade his haven for the Gucci imposters and the were sharks and the ghosts in the trees.
And Leon will head back to his bookstore where he spends most of his nights.